Let us now look at long-term liabilities in a bit more detail. Long-term liabilities are actually classified into three types. There are long-term liabilities with known obligations. So these can be, bank loans which you may have taken, or loans from others. So these are some known long-term obligations. Then the second would be estimated long-term liabilities. These can be related to employee benefits that the company may have to pay over a period of time, or warranties, or deferred tax liabilities that may get reversed over a period of time. So these are estimated long-term liabilities. And the third one is basically contingent long-term liabilities. These are something contingent nature, that these may come, and if they come, that can be a really huge amount. So if a company is into some litigations related to environmental issues, that can be contingent upon winning the case. So I mean, probably these are also some of the liabilities to look at, because these are part of the long-term liabilities. Long-term liabilities like bonds or loans that have been taken from the bank are subject to various covenants or restrictions. These covenants are basically agreement between the company and the bank, and these impose certain restrictions in one way or the other. These restrictions can be in the form of raising further loan from a different bank, or maybe restrictions can be in the form of capital investments. Agreement could be about supplying or giving the financial statements at regular intervals to the bank. So these can be thought over as some restrictions or agreements which the company will have to follow, and if they don't, it results in some kind of technical default, thereby resulting in the downgrade of their bonds as such. So this is one which is very important to look at. Second is that you must understand that these can come from different sources and can have different structures and claims. These structures and claims can be really complex at times, but the most important one that you must look at is something called as a senior bond and a subordinate bond. So a senior bond, obviously, as the name suggests, has seniority over the subordinate bond. So if repayment has to be done, it would be senior who would be repaid first, and then the subordinate would be looked at. So these are the major classifications of the bonds as such. Now let's look at different types of bonds which are generally available in the market. The first one we'll take is the secured and the unsecured bonds. Secured bonds by default have some kind of collateral attached to it. Now just think about it, that if, let's say, as a normal investor, I approach a bank for a loan, in return, if I can give something, my home documents, as a mortgage or a collateral, then the bank will be able to kind of finance my loan. This will be called as a secured bond. A secured bond means that the company has provided some collateral against the loan that they have raised from the bank. So the bondholders actually can seize the asset in case of default. So let's say if I have taken a loan from a bank and I'm unable to pay the loan, they can actually seize my asset or home. So mortgage bonds are basically secured bonds. An unsecured bond is a one which doesn't have any collateral attached to it. So another kind of bond which is available in the market, though in a restricted format, is something like a callable bond. A callable bond, as the name suggests, provides the right to redeem the bond prior to its maturity date. So a company can redeem it before its maturity date. So it's giving the company some kind of added advantage, because of which you'll find that this bond is actually priced lower than the regular bonds or the straight bonds. And when will actually company kind of call the bond? If they are kind of paying a higher coupon than the current market rates. If they're doing that, it's always advisable to actually call this bond and raise another loan at current market rate. So why to pay a higher coupon than what the market is actually giving as such? Another important classification of bond is called as convertible bonds. So as the name suggests, these convert into some other form of securities. Actually, this gives us a right to convert the bonds into common shares, and this can be done at some predetermined price. And if they don't convert, they will actually exhibit the characteristics of a fixed income security. The characteristics of fixed income security is primarily the payment of coupon and the payment of the principal at the end of the tenure or at maturity. However, if they convert, these bonds will cease to exist and they will exhibit the features of a regular equity security. So an example here could be something like a $200 par bond of convertible bonds of ABC Corporation converts into its common shares at $50 per share. So as you can see, you have issued $200 par amount of convertible bonds, and each bond will convert into how many shares? They will convert into 4 shares. So we'll call this as 4:1 or 4:1 bond. So these are the typical characteristics of a convertible bond.